Good morning, everybody. My name is Jimerson. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer with the Port of Seattle. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I want to start with a simple idea, one that's often misunderstood, and that is cybersecurity isn't just about protection. It's not just about having those controls in place, such as firewalls, access control mechanisms, certain types of policies, awareness training, and things of that particular nature. But cybersecurity is really about resilience. It's about making sure that we can continue to operate, continue delivering the services, and maintain public trust, even when something goes wrong. Because believe me, things will go wrong, and I think most of you know that by now. Because today's landscape is just ever expanding, especially with the new technologies that we're putting in place and the new types of processes and other things that are impacting the dynamics of how we do business in an organization. Today, I just really wanted to kind of talk to about three particular things of top of mind, at least for me, when it comes to cybersecurity. There are lots of other things out there that we could talk about, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the proliferation of AI. AI is expanding and booming everywhere, so it's all the rage right now. And ransomware has been around for a while, but it's maintained its persistency, and it is even growing. Matter of fact, leveraging AI with ransomware is really becoming, top of mind for most security practitioners. And then I want to kind of step through very quickly about vendor supply chain, talk a little bit about because of our interdependencies that we have with third-party vendors and how that may impact our organizations. So I'll start off with a little bit about AI. AI is accelerating, as I said before, faster than any other security controls that we can build around it. More than about 77%, I read someplace, where people are using AI on a daily basis, either for a service or on a device such as a smartphone, things of that like that people are operating and often don't realize that they're really leveraging the AI capabilities within those resources. And whether we're ready or not, AI it's a core part of our digital ecosystems. The challenge that we have with it is evolving in every direction, and it's really all about evolving in a direction in so many places that we really have to think about the impacts behind all that evolution with AI. And there's being new tools that are being made. We have new models and frameworks. So we're reshaping our industries and our economy and the way that we work around AI these days. And there's just so much that I could talk about and say about AI, but I just wanted to give you the idea that it's something in your organization, especially at the leadership level, that really can't be ignored. Whether organizations want to or not, AI is here, so we're going to have to make sure that we're managing that appropriately. People are using AI because they want to be more efficient, and that's good. But many times people are leveraging AI that is unsanctioned, that's unmanaged, hasn't been vetted through an organization. So we want to be careful about that as well. I read where one organization created some AI applications to manage financial reports and streamline some of their financial information processing. But they did that and didn't configure their systems or their applications properly, and their information, the proprietary information, actually ended up getting exposed through leak websites. So we want to think about those things that could potentially happen in your organization. And that's just the reality that we live in today. Organizations are going to really have to really make sure that they're, I don't really want to use the words brace AI, but having some kind of strategy around AI, because whether you want it or not, or know it or not, people are going to be using that AI. And when it's not sanctioned, the terminology we use behind that, just like we did with IT, shadow IT, we now have shadow IT, shadow AI. So that's something you need to keep at top of mind. And this is why we need to have a really intentional AI strategy, making sure that the guidelines and what the organization values as, you know, its ethics around AI are being clearly communicated and exercised accordingly. And that's where that governance piece comes into play, of course, with some level of accountability. And then we just want to make sure that those guidelines are clearly defined and make sure we've got good responsible use. Um, AI, those tasks that we utilize them for, and for trying to process and analyze those large volumes of data, while we are able to utilize it for some very good reasons, it still cannot. We got to remember, it still can't replace human judgment. It's into our intuition and our accountability. So with that, a, we should be able to, or we should try to adopt AI through an intentional fashion, not accidentally, where we're throwing things out there and experimenting to just see what works. We need to be very careful about that. Now, let me shift a little bit, taking AI to kind of a little bit of a different direction, and that is with our adversaries that are out there, those third-party malicious actors. They are also using AI in a variety of ways. By now, I'm sure all of us are aware that there's deep fake voice calls that are out there, video impersonation. We got targeted phishing attacks that are driven through social engineering, that are automated through the use of AI right now. So the threat actors are, they're sitting in pretty good position to really just optimize their current capabilities into more autonomous use. So those are some things that we need to keep and be top of mind up as well. In fact, when we think about AI and its use, it's really helped the ransomware actors leverage their attacks. So the ransomware groups out there have evolved with as we now know, into full-scale businesses where they're able to provide ransomware as a service, but they can leverage a lot more of that through their AI capabilities. In fact, they can scale their attacks now with the development or utilization of AI, so they can get them to adopt more quicker when they're learning about an infrastructure and infiltrating a network, so they can actually build some of the tools and some of the coding tactics for malware right there on the spot while they're attacking. So it gives them a really, really huge capabilities than we were before. What's interesting about AI, when we think about it in terms of defense mechanisms, it actually takes some type of AI tool to really discover malicious AI taking place. This is why we need to make sure that some of the systems that we have in place protecting our organization do have those features of being able to detect AI, things of that particular nature. As before, ransomware actors really targeted on Microsoft or Windows-based applications. In fact, 93% of Windows-based operating systems are target of attacks through ransomware actors. So we really need to make sure that we're thinking in terms of some of the more dominant type of providers out there that we have in the market, where most of us are heavily reliant on Microsoft. So we really want to make sure that we understand and align some of our defense mechanisms and strategies with those types of systems, not to leave out other types of technologies that you're utilizing in your organizations. But just as I talked about before, these attacks can be scaled to thousands of machines, and there's customized malware. Spoke about that earlier. Just about everything it seems like it's fair game and possible to achieve from a threat actor's point of view. And this gives them that availability to launch their attacks faster and cheaper than ever before. They're literally, they analyze their victims, and they generate, different types of changes and anomalies that they can, intrude on a network with through the capabilities of AI, which makes ransomware a little bit more optimized these days. And they, will be around for, or ransomware actors will probably be around for a while to come. But if we make sure that we're modernizing our endpoint protections, we're performing behavioral analytics, and as I said before, factoring AI-powered type of detection tools, being identity and just aware of the types of defenses that we can integrate into our systems. But overall, it's part of that big resiliency picture that we need to be always thinking about. So let me just shift real quickly in the time that I have left here to factor in vendor and supply chain risk. All of us, all our organizations are dependent on some type of third party application or service in some way or another. And this usage of third parties has really scaled and become a kind of a larger mechanisms that we utilize in our organizations. So we can outsource tools, we can outsource the technology, we can outsource the services, HRM functions, CRM functions, those types of things. A lot of us have third parties that are utilizing, those types of technologies to provide the services for us. So we, kind of move away from a lot of things that we traditionally have on-prem, kind of moving more things to the cloud, moving more things to platform-centric types of ecosystems and things of that nature. But in doing so, I think we really have to kind of realize that about 62% of network intrusions originate through a third party. So, as I said before, when we bring these third parties into our organization, our system, we actually bring their risk and we bring their vulnerabilities that we need to be mindful of and making sure we're holding them accountable. And a lot can be said about software these days. Those manufacturers, they struggle with security deficiencies built into their systems. And as I talk about some of these deficiencies that third parties and other providers might have, we need to think about, okay, the downstream impact on these systems because we're so reliant. What's our backup capability? If something happens to one of these providers that can no longer provide this service, what's the next what's the next thing that we utilize to make sure that we have our operations going? So we always need to be thinking one step ahead. So I think it's important, when we bring third parties on board, when we take them through an architectural review and they get approved for their technology, like how they're going to access our systems and how they're going to interoperate with other type of technologies that we're utilizing. We eventually onboard them, but we can't just do that more in a vacuum that usually is done where we have a checklist and of questionnaires to get them onboarded to the organization. We need to make sure that we're continuously assessing what they're doing and how they're able to do it and how secure their capabilities are. Even if they provide us with a SOC 2 document validating that they've gone through a stringent security reviews and things of that nature, it doesn't mean that things won't change, a day or two or a month or a year down the road. So that's why we have to make sure that we're continuously monitoring third parties and we're continuously validating the services that they're providing are done in a safe and secure manner. There's a lot of times third parties, and we're seeing more and more where they're being compromised these days, and we need to think about that ahead of time rather than for when that actually ends up happening. So let's bring all this together. What does all this really mean? It means that resiliency isn't really an option for us anymore. It's absolutely essential that we, are mindful of the resiliency in our organization so that we can keep our operations running. Um, AI is reshaping the workplace. It's changing and it's creating some challenges. It's also providing some opportunities. So, got to figure out how we're going to balance that. New techniques, and everybody's excited about AI, but we need to make sure that excitement about AI is really balanced with the risk of utilizing AI, and we scale that to our operations. And our reliance on vendors is growing deeper and deeper and more complex. So we need to make sure that our use of AI is intentional. Um, and with things like ransomware out there and other type of threat vectors that are being manipulated by threat actors, we need to make sure our defenses are strengthened. And we need to factor in, even utilizing AI around some of our defenses as well. We got to continually manage and validate third party, the ecosystem of third parties. And I think more importantly, we got to make sure that we're continuing to build that culture of cyber awareness and always being prepared to adopt, because cybersecurity isn't about just stopping attacks. It should be more about ensuring that no matter what happens, that we're able to keep our organization moving forward. We're able to deliver our services, and we're able to keep the trust of the people that we serve. So that's what I have for you. Thank you for listening to me.